I, female 36, have been married to my husband for 3 years. He has one daughter, Christine, who'll soon be 18 years old, and he's bought her a new car as her birthday gift. Here's the thing. Christine's mom is deceased. She has a good relationship with me. Not too long ago, she told me that I was like a second mom to her. This, of course, means everything to me. However, she and her dad don't get along that much. I have to say that he's incredibly overprotective of her, but has done things that affected their relationship, like how he caused her to break up with her ex-boyfriend after he got diagnosed with multiple health conditions. Because of that, Christine has grown distant from her dad. For her 18th birthday, he wanted to throw her a big celebration and buy her the car she always wanted as a way to reconcile with her. They're on okay terms now, but he says he wants to regain her trust. 2 days ago, I overheard him discussing installing a tracking device in her new car with a friend. I was stunned. I brought it up later at night and told him how wrong this was. He said it was none of my business, but I told him that if and when Christine finds out, then there'll be trouble. He got upset and went on about how he's just doing this out of concern and protection for her, and said it was none of my business whatsoever, since I didn't buy the car. I called him unreasonable and said that if he didn't back off, then I'll tell her at the party when he handed her the key. He was shocked at this. He called me crazy and said that I shouldn't have been snooping and listening to his private talks in the first place. I said I'd tell her, but he told me to stay out of it, since it's his daughter, not mine, and that if I wanted to parent my way, then I was free to have my own children. This stung because he knows I can't have kids due to infertility problems. We argued about it, and I said I'd still tell her. He called me unhinged and said I get no say, nor do I have the right to get involved whatsoever. Just stay out of it, he kept repeating. I consulted my mom and she agreed it was none of my business. She told me to stay out of it and not try to stir drama and cause scenes. She said I should know better and stay on my husband's side, since stepkids are always flippant. I'm torn on this, but I'm still insisting on it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Check your car and devices for trackers and spyware. If he's doing it to her on the sly, he may have or probably has done the same to you. It's insanely creepy, violating, and even more concerning is his keep your mouth shut type of reaction. Don't walk, run. And I shouldn't have been snooping and listening to his private talks, said the man to you, who just installed a tracking device on his 18-year-old's car. She's legally an adult and should not be tracked without her knowledge. Please tell her. She's not a kid anymore and has a right to know. If he can't see the irony in accusing you of snooping as he's planning to install a tracking device on someone else's car, there's no hope for him. He actually brought up your infertility issues to win this argument. He's throwing your infertility in your face. That would have been the end of that marriage for me. He doesn't sound like he respects you at all. I say do it at the party, so there are witnesses to his outburst that's sure to follow. Give everyone the chance to see what he's really like. Draw a hard boundary. He's purposely violating his daughter's privacy in a very illegal way and trying to gaslight the situation to make you seem like the bad one for finding out his terrible action/crime. I would reconsider my marriage to a man like this. He sounds toxic as heck. You and the daughter need to get out of that relationship and house. My sister Evie's pregnancy with my nephew, Liam, was a high-risk one. I still remember the panic on Evie and my brother-in-law's faces as we all thought Liam would not make it. Luckily, we had an incredible team of hospital staff, and Liam was completely okay. Liam is healthy, but Evie's not been able to move past the experience of almost losing Liam. Now she never enforces boundaries on Liam, and her reasoning to me always is that he almost died, and whatever Liam did isn't the end of the world. My brother-in-law is a foreign service officer, often overseas for weeks or months. Evie stays at home, so she's the one raising Liam. I love my nephew, but he's out of control. Liam is capable of behaving. He behaves when his grandparents or I am in charge because we give him consequences. If he purposely breaks his cousin's toy, he receives a scolding and a timeout. But then if Evie's around, or Liam mentions being punished to her later, Evie gets upset at us because Liam doesn't understand what he's doing, and she'll buy Liam ice cream or a toy to make up for Auntie or Nana and Peepaw being mean to you. When Evie's around or Liam's at school, he's out of control. The school calls Evie almost daily because Liam believes he doesn't need to listen to his teacher. Liam will throw or break things if he doesn't get his way. Other kids are afraid of Liam for this reason, which Evie claims is all of them bullying Liam, and that they in the school don't understand Liam. Liam expresses sadness to me because he doesn't understand why he can't make friends and isn't happy. Yet Evie still tries to distract Liam with toys and encourages Liam that he's perfect and that the whole world is against him. I got a call from Evie explaining that Liam had a tantrum because he wanted to eat at a specific restaurant that was closed that day. Liam threw a toy in anger and accidentally knocked the laptop I lent him for schoolwork off the table. Evie said she'd offer to buy me a new one as it's beyond fixing. But as I had mentioned before, it was a throwaway computer and I likely wasn't going to use it again anyway. Evie still wasn't punishing Liam because he's a rainbow baby, and why would she punish a child for expressing his feelings? I told my sister that nobody would care that Liam's her miracle baby when he grows up to be a criminal, and that she's raising Liam to be a miserable and spoiled monster unless she changes. We got into a screaming match on the phone before I hung up. A friend of mine, Raquel, told me that I was awful for saying my nephew would grow up to be a monster, and I'll never know the trauma that Evie went through, believing her child wouldn't survive. I know it was traumatizing, but Evie refuses to move past it with therapy, and it's just poisoning Liam's upbringing. So was I in the wrong for saying what I did to Evie? Edit. Since Liam's birth, our family has encouraged Evie to seek therapy. However, Evie always insists that she doesn't need therapy, and we can't force Evie to go. I have had countless gentle conversations with her about how Liam's behavior is concerning and to try and seek therapy, but Evie insists she knows what she's doing. Not the idiot. You should encourage her instead to seek guidance from a professional. Her trauma regarding the birth of her son is obstructing her son's development. Being too permissive and not providing structure or discipline will bring more harm than good. Brother-in-law needs to get involved too, and should have since yesterday. A screaming match will not make your case, but your concerns are valid. I doubt you'll ever get through to her, but if no one says it, then she won't have a chance of realizing that as much as she loves her son, she's ruining him. A parent fostering good behavior and social skills in a child is a form of love and will pay dividends for life. Unfortunately, the opposite is also true. Make sure you get paid for the computer. Considering her attitude, it's the principle of the thing. You are the idiot. Holy crap, man, why does this need to be explained? Here's a life lesson for you. While being angry is often understandable, acting out of anger is never acceptable. So why didn't you say anything previously? Perhaps something like, "Hey sis, I'm concerned about your kid's behaviors." Instead, you waited until you were angry. Then you threw a temper tantrum and called your sister's child a future criminal. Your emotions are never an excuse for your behavior. Actually, it is when you're your nephew's age, but not when you're an adult. My 28 female, husband 35, and I've been married for a year. We dated for 2 years before that. When we met, I said I didn't want to have my own kids, but wouldn't mind being in a relationship with someone with kids. So we agreed that he would be solely responsible for his kids, minus the little stuff. I love my husband a lot, and his kids are all right. The older two are great, but the younger two are a bit much. We've had separate finances our whole relationship, since he has kids and I don't. When I moved into the house, we agreed that I would pay a fourth of the mortgage, since it's a 4-bedroom and 3 to 4 rooms go to his kids. I pay 1/5 of the utilities, since 5 of us live here, myself, and then he and his 4 kids. I also buy my groceries separately, since I'm into fitness and meal prep once a week. It's just the best way to go about it. This was the agreement we came to 2 years ago, and we've stuck to it. Recently, I've gotten a new car, and I guess he's realized my finances vary a bit more from his than they used to. I work as a travel nurse, going to wherever pays the most for about 1/3 of the year. I make pretty good money and I've saved a lot. I make around $130K a year. Meal prepping and responsible spending has helped a lot. And I don't buy myself a lot of luxuries other than my new car. My husband works as a mechanic and makes a fair amount considering we live in a low cost of living area, around $40K a year. Well, he wants me to start setting up college funds for his kids, and he wants to have a joint account and pay our bills based on our income. So essentially, he wants me to pay 2/3 of everything related to the household and him to pay 1/3. I don't think that's fair at all. He decided to have 4 kids, and I decided not to have any because I would rather spend my time and my money on myself. He thinks it's not fair that I can buy myself an expensive car while he still drives an older car that needs work. Ultimately, I asked why he agreed to the arrangement we have now if he wasn't okay with it, and he just changed the subject. Am I the idiot for not wanting to support his kids? Jesus, everyone's the idiot here. So he's below the poverty line, and you're at the upper class income threshold. You're married and comfortable seeing your stepchildren struggle because your income blocks them from federal student aid/FAFSA that they'd more than qualify for if you weren't in the picture. Financially, he'd be better off if he divorced you and rented your room to some random person. That's not a marriage. You're a friend with benefits at best. He knew what he signed up for, or it's your money is like, technically, sure, fine, but why would they get married if she doesn't want kids? It cannot be healthy for 4 kids to live with someone who just kind of tolerates their existence. Also, I know that OP doesn't owe her husband anything, but I can't imagine being comfortable watching your husband struggle to make ends meet while you make 6 figures. Every adult here sucks so bad. Nothing about this sounds like a marriage to me. You married a man with 4 kids, but your finances are separate. Your meals and grocery shopping are separate, and you make him agree to do everything for his kids. It's like you're renting half a bedroom in his house and maybe having intimacy with him. I see much more than money problems here. So I have an infant baby girl, and my sister-in-law is a 4th-year medical student who's applying to residency right now. She doesn't comment much, but sometimes she points out things about my baby's development that hurt my feelings. Like she'll say, she's coming to the age where she can start crawling soon, or, oh, she's almost got it down. And it makes me feel guilty that my daughter isn't crawling or hitting milestones. Today I shared a video of my baby on a walker, and she said it was cute, and then shared that she had learned while on her pediatrics rotation that the pediatricians didn't recommend walkers, and sent me a link to the Harvard Health site that said walkers slow baby milestones. She also used to share tips and things she learned from her pediatrics rotation. I got frustrated and told her to leave the parenting to me and mind her own business. If I had any questions, I'd figure it out. She didn't respond, but my brother called me and told me that I was insulting and that she was just excited for my baby and wanted to share what she had learned. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. She's almost got it down. Hurt your feelings? Learning that docs suggest not to use walkers is a personal affront? She's doing nothing that insults your parenting skills or even suggests that you did anything wrong. Instead, you're insecure because she's way more accomplished than you are, and you're lashing out because she's also informed on parenting. Stop being jealous and appreciate that she's interested in her niece. Why are you more interested in feeling like a good parent than learning how to be one? She hasn't said anything overbearing or over the line, just normal things a family member would say. Also, passing along a few tips in an article seems normal. Don't burn your bridges. You're lucky to have a future doctor in the family who you can ask questions. Didn't you know OP is smarter than Harvard medical experts because she's a mom of 1? Some people's pride is worth more than anything else, including their children's best interest. OP, hate to break it to you, but having a kid doesn't mean you know more about kids. She's a 4th-year medical student. Do you know what it takes to get that far? Guess what? She knows more than you. I, 41 female, have a daughter, teen, Sophia. The background to the incident is that Sophia lives in her own 1-bedroom apartment 3 floors down from my husband and me. She spends most of her time in our apartment, which is where she grew up, but moved downstairs over the summer. The other important background is that Sophia has quite a close relationship with my dad, but no real relationship with his wife, Sally, who she has barely seen throughout her life. Sophia's birthday is next month, and my father will be visiting from abroad for the celebration. He asked if his wife could come, and after asking Sophia, I said yes. Hotels are quite expensive in our city, so I offered for my father and Sally to stay at our apartment, fully expecting that he would decline, which he did. I presumed that they'd find a hotel and left it at that. A few days later, I got a text from Sally, asking if she and my father could stay in my daughter's apartment while they were visiting, so that we can all have our own space. I thought this was impudent, but told her I would ask my daughter and get back to her. Sophia said she didn't want to come and stay upstairs because she was going to have a small party at her apartment on one of the days of her birthday week, which she can't do at our apartment, and that her best friend would be staying over for 2 nights that week. So I told Sally no, and she persisted, saying hotels were expensive, etc. But I told her that Sophia had said no, and that it was final. The next day I got a call from my dad, saying Sophia had upset Sally, and I needed to speak to her. He said Sophia had sent Sally a rude text, uninviting her to the birthday celebrations. So I went down to Sophia's, and she showed me the conversation. Sally had taken it upon herself to text Sophia, asking that she vacate her apartment. Sophia again said no, and Sally kept pushing, saying how she and my father couldn't afford to go if they had to pay for accommodation. The text messages were incredibly condescending and manipulative. Sophia replied, saying that my dad could come on his own, and since Sally was the reason they had to stay at a hotel, Sophia didn't mind if she didn't come. Sally didn't reply, but obviously, she'd been tattling. After seeing the whole thread, I told my dad the way I see it, Sally attempted to bully a child, and she picked the wrong one. I said Sophia had offered a viable solution to the problem, and my dad was welcome to stay with me if they couldn't afford to pay for the trip. My father has since been texting me multiple times a day, asking that Sophia apologize, and saying I'm making him choose between his wife and his granddaughter, as now Sally is pitching a fit. I don't think I am making him choose. No one said she couldn't come, but he seems a bit desperate, and I know Sally can be very temperamental over things like this. So I'm beginning to think maybe I should have asked Sophia to apologize. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Sally is. She overstepped her boundaries, thinking she could manipulate a child. Her contact should have been through you, not Sophia. No apology is necessary, unless it comes from Sally. It's amazing when a parent gathers all the facts, instead of assuming their child did something wrong. Well done. What I find most infuriating about this is that Sally expects Sophia to sacrifice having her friends sleep over for 2 nights and get together with all of her friends, just so she gets her own space. The whole purpose of them coming into town was to celebrate Sophia's birthday, yet she seems to have no problem ruining her birthday week in every other way simply for her own comfort. Sally is selfish, entitled, manipulative, and a bully. Stick to your guns. If they choose not to come, that's on them. It shows exactly where their priorities lie. So I usually get along with my mother-in-law, but sometimes we clash. The only relevant time we've had issues was a few years ago when we were on a family vacation and got into a massive fight. The long and short of it was, I missed an important family dinner at the restaurant my mother-in-law and father-in-law met at. Usually when I'm on vacation, I don't like to schedule stuff out and just explore and have fun, so I got distracted and missed dinner. Last week I learned that my mother-in-law and all my sisters-in-law are going on a trip to California this summer. Apparently they planned this since last year, and I was specifically left out of all the planning. My sister-in-law said that my mother-in-law chose not to invite me because of the fight we had about that dinner years ago. I'm the kind of person who likes to deal with things head-on, with no petty BS, so I called my mother-in-law up last night. She at first said it wasn't personal. She wanted to plan many activities over the week in Cali, and she knew I wasn't one for the long planned itineraries. I said that was crap, because I could come and still hang out with them at the beach and hotel while going to the planned stuff I chose. She then said that she wouldn't pay for a flight and hotel for me just to choose to stand up to everyone. Things got heated quickly, and she told me that she swore to herself never to pay for another of my trips after ruining her anniversary trip like I did, just because I'm selfish and can't bother to do things other people want to do. This was complete BS, and I called her out on it. We ended up fighting and I hung up. I texted all my sisters-in-law, telling them that I was utterly disgusted that they would all leave me out of this just because my mother-in-law has a petty grudge against me and can't stop being a control freak for 5 seconds. Today I woke up to text after text telling me to grow up, and she wasn't the only one who didn't want me there. My husband supports me 100%, but apparently he got chewed out by his mother today, and he said now he's staying out of it. So now I'm starting to wonder if calling her out like this was too far, and that I should have just been the bigger person. I don't know though. So she's paying for the trip so that everyone can spend time together and do activities together. And your position is that you'll pick and choose the activities that you're interested in. You are the idiot. She doesn't owe you a free trip. Don't forget the fact that the previous trip was to celebrate the in-laws' anniversary, and she couldn't even bother to show up for dinner. I also wonder whether some planned activities require reservations or deposits that would be wasted if Little Miss Free Spirit wanders off again. OP isn't that special, and no one will give her a full paid vacation so she can do what she wants on their dime. But wait, she got distracted and missed dinner. And where was the husband, the actual son, while she was distracted? Did he go to the dinner while this lady was out screwing off? 'Cause she made it sound like she was the only one who missed the anniversary dinner, and then argued with mother-in-law for missing an important anniversary dinner instead of apologizing profusely on an anniversary trip funded by the anniversary couple. The entitlement is awe-inspiring. Honey, I've got news for you. It wasn't just about the dinner. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't just that you missed dinner. Your sisters-in-law confirmed that it's not just your mother-in-law who doesn't want you there, suggesting bigger issues. And your mother-in-law was apparently right. She wanted to treat people to a trip with a specific itinerary. You confirmed you have no intention of following an itinerary. So there you go. It's not the trip for you. You don't get to demand a free trip on your terms. It's obvious what it was. OP seems very rude and abrasive. The "I'm just brutally honest" type for sure. OP, you have an amazing sense of entitlement to think that your mother-in-law is required to invite you and pay for your trip. You may have some point if you were paying your own way, but you're a freeloader who didn't bother to be thankful in the past and is now surprised not to be invited again. Your husband should be standing up to you. He should be calling you out for your poor behavior. Instead, you're aggressively mistreating his family. Obviously, he can't have a frank discussion about these issues because you'll fly off the handle. I feel sorry for him. My husband and I have 2 boys. I have a cat, 6, and he has a dog, 2. I've never been a dog person. I knew I'd had to overcome my trauma eventually, so after months of harping on me about getting a dog, I allowed it, but it wasn't without protest. I adore some dogs, like my mom's girl, who's hands down probably the best dog on this planet, but in most cases, I truly just don't like them, and it's not the dog's fault, but the owner's lack of training. So when I finally caved and let him get a dog, I clarified that he was to train the dog and that I would not be responsible. He got the dog, she's a healer, 2 weeks ago, and she's a terror. 100% my husband's doing. It's not even her fault. She still gets in the garbage, still has accidents inside. Her anxiety's to the point of her whining nonstop and constantly underfoot. She barks and whines whenever she's in the vehicle, and he insists on bringing her everywhere. She's reactive. She's food-driven to the point of excessively sniffing the floors for hours on end and never stops until she tires herself out. She stares at you, whining whenever you have food. I was just able to get her to stop nipping faces, her idea of playing and showing affection, if you go based on what my husband claims. He is the problem, but it has admittedly made me feel like I'm held captive in my home. My kids also don't want this dog, and never have. But again, it's because of my husband. Well, we found a rent-to-own that my husband desperately wants. He fell madly in love with it. We've been searching for a while, but they've clarified that only one pet is allowed. My immediate reaction was, well, this won't work, whereas his reaction was, who can we get to take the cat? I told him I wasn't willing to get rid of my cat so he could keep his untrained dog that no one wanted but him. He thinks I'm an idiot because I don't have the same bond with the cat that he does with the dog. I can see his point, as he has an unhealthy obsession with his dog, and she's the exact same way as him, but I still won't do it. He says this may be the only chance we have for a while to get into a home, which also could be true, but I still stood firm. He won't speak to me and has been snuggling his dog nonstop for 4 days straight. Am I the idiot? Edit. I've talked to him until I'm blue in the face about getting her into training, especially due to her being reactive and resource guarding. He outright refuses. He says paying someone that much money is a waste of money when we could just do it ourselves. He won't get her medicated for her anxiety outside of THC chews, which simply do not work. Girl, rehome your husband. You didn't ask him to get rid of his dog. He didn't even ask. He assumed you would get rid of your cat. Add the fact that he's an irresponsible dog owner and a selfish man who doesn't care how much his dog annoys his wife and children, who must share a house with them, and how the dog herself isn't happy because he isn't providing her with a healthy bond and home life. He's the idiot for sure. This is the answer. The husband doesn't respect OP, and he certainly doesn't care about the children. If he's keeping a dog that nips at their faces in the house, he even goes so far as to intentionally undo the OP's training. So he's weaponizing the dog against OP, and that's unacceptable. And that dog needs a better owner who's going to train it. But really, people on this Sun constantly complain that people here are always quick to say, throw the whole man away. But so many of the men these stories are about appear to have no redeeming factors. It makes me feel like every other OP needs to acquire 3 things: a spine, some higher standards, and a good divorce attorney. My daughter, 31, and her wife, 33, and their son, kindergartner, live in a different state. I, 60 female, am always the one who goes to visit them in their house because of my daughter-in-law's busy work schedule. My daughter said she wanted to come and see me and her old friends with her family. They're currently renovating their house. They have a home in our city and usually stay there and rarely come over. My daughter asked me if they could stay with me. I said, of course. When they arrived, I mentioned that I had prepared each of them a different room, one for my daughter, one for my daughter-in-law, and one for my grandson. My daughter said I was being unreasonable and that she wanted to sleep in the same room as her wife. I said I made her brother and his wife do the same thing when they visited, and they never complained. My daughter told my daughter-in-law to arrange for a hotel. I was really hurt by her decision and said I'd hope she'd just stay, and it was a few days. She said she hadn't slept apart from her wife for 9 years and wouldn't start doing that now. They left and stayed at the hotel. My daughter is still cold to me, and my friends think I acted like an idiot. Was I the idiot? Info. I had prepped each of them a different room. Why? I made her brother and his wife do the same thing when they visited. Why? Why on earth are you making married couples sleep in separate rooms? I think you know the answer here. Mommy wants to exert control over her grown-up children. OP, they're married with a kid. She's not a teenager you're trying to protect from the atrocity of intimacy out of wedlock. As for your son and his wife, I'm confident that they never openly complained, but had plenty of problems about it behind closed doors and didn't want to confront you about it. I bet the brother and his wife only visited once. Since then, they've just been too busy to visit. Unless your reasoning is, the only guest beds I have are singles, so I made up 3 rooms because I didn't think they'd be comfortable squishing 2 adults into one tiny bed. I have to go with, you are the idiot. Your daughter simply isn't willing to take crap like her brother. Good for her. I, 40 male, am married to Claire, 39 female. I have 2 children with my late wife who are teens. Claire has a grown son in his 20s. My late wife was Maggie, and I still love her and always will. She passed when our 2 kids were 2 and 3 years old. We had discussed the possibility of it happening because she had a job where she put herself at risk to help others. She's still very much part of our story. When I was ready to date again, I went into it with some basic points that needed to be okay with a potential partner. Those were, I was not looking for a mother for my children. They have a mother and didn't want a relationship where they called someone else mom. Yes, we talked about it. Maggie would always be part of the picture, and any partner of mine had to be okay with that. Maggie would not be forgotten or erased just because I was ready to date. I also didn't want to have more children. When Claire and I met, she told me all of that was good with her because she had a grown son and didn't want to start over, and she respected that I still loved my late wife. She and my kids got along, so I felt good about our relationship. Things were good until last year, when my youngest told me Claire had been making them uncomfortable around Mother's Day, and that she had requested that my child suggest a change of plans and we do something for her that Mother's Day. Claire was always with her son while the kids and I would visit Maggie's grave, go out for lunch at the diner Maggie and I took them to while she was alive, and we'd chill afterward. Claire wanted us to drop that and never said a thing to me. I brought it up to her, and she told me she felt it was time that the kids and I joined her and her son for Mother's Day and embraced the person who was there. I told her she was celebrating with her son while my kids and I were remembering and honoring their mom. She was very closed off, and I told her we needed to speak to a therapist because I could see more was going on. It's taken this long, but since February, she's been opening up and saying how she does want my kids to view her as a mother and how she isn't okay with how things are, with them seeing her as a family but not a parent, and with how much Maggie's still a part of things. She also admitted her relationship with her son is not what she pretended it to be, and she wanted a chance to have a closer adult relationship with my kids and to be the mom of an adult she always thought she would be. I told her she couldn't use my kids to fulfill her wish when they don't want to be a part of it. She told me if I loved her, I would encourage them to at least try, and that I said that to her very dismissively. She told me I was being rude for the sake of being rude. Though the therapist agreed with me, Claire is still hurt about what I said. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, as long as this is what your kids want. The thing is, kids can have more than one kind of parent in their lives. Rather than focus on never replacing their bio mom, you could encourage the 3 of them to form a different kind of relationship, one where she's a trusted adult in their lives without erasing the presence of your late wife. I can tell you love your kids. However, I also wonder if their reluctance to embrace Claire comes from a place of not wanting to disappoint you. They were tiny when Maggie died and aren't likely to remember much about her, but they instinctively understand your position on this. Being a step-parent is incredibly challenging. You do the work, love the child, often get no authority, and receive very little appreciation. So compassion for Claire is important too. After 13 years, it's very honorable that you're still including your late wife. But at this point, it's also time to let someone in and to bond as a family of 5 instead of 3 plus 2. She doesn't want your kids to call her mom, but she wants to have a healthy parental relationship with all 3 kids who she cares for every day. This doesn't sound like a crazy wish, like you're implying. As much as I respect that you were not trying to replace your late wife in your kids' lives, it sounds to me like your late wife takes up way too much space in your marriage. I, 20 female, have an older sister, Jen, 28, and a younger sister, Chloe, nearly adult. Jen made our lives a living nightmare. She was rude, reckless, a liar, a thief, everything. She refused to go to therapy and fought our mom every step of the way. None of us could have nice things because Jen would ruin them or the moment. She got into a screaming match with Chloe when she was 11 and Jen was 22. There's so much more she's done, but it's very personal. She was a bad person, full stop. When she was 24, she met her boyfriend, a literal godsend. Jen finally went to therapy, got a degree, and has a job. She's not perfect, but I can't acknowledge the effort as much as I dislike her. Over the past few months, she's been trying to reconnect with the family. Chloe's full no contact, but Mom and I have been seeing her. I feel like she's been lying to her therapist because she's been told she was the scapegoat. I was the invisible child, and Chloe was the golden child. This couldn't be further from the truth. I'll admit, at the height of Jen's spiral, Mom did assume everything bad was caused by Jen, but that was because it had been years of the same destructive pattern of behavior. Like, yes, Jen, you're an alcoholic. Of course she's going to assume it was you who stole her booze. Or assuming she got fired from her job due to her attitude, which is why she got fired from every job beforehand. Or assuming she was being brought home by the police because she regularly breaks the law. This was never Mom being malicious, but that's what you've come to expect over nearly 10 years. You will make a snap judgment. Jen and her fiance, Luke, met with me to have coffee, and she brought this up. And I'll admit I laughed in her face. She asked what was wrong, and I said, scapegoat? Seriously? Jen, I'm glad you're getting better, but you were a piece of crap growing up. She got really upset and said she was trying to reach out. I said I appreciated it, but she had to acknowledge how much hurt she caused everyone. She stormed out and texted me, saying she would not be disrespected like that, and that it took her years to realize the family's dynamic. Am I the idiot? Edit. I also want to clarify that Jen assigned these labels to us, not her therapist. I've learned that respectable therapists don't use terms like these. So my best guess is Jen has pulled this out of her butt while we were meeting, or her therapist reinforced it. Either way, Jen came up with this alignment, making me skeptical of her. Not the idiot. Your words were harsh, but they sound like they're spot on. Wording aside, your point was to acknowledge her growth, but also point out that it's not okay to claim victimhood after the fact if it keeps you from taking responsibilities for your actions. It sounds like she's made some strides. Still, if this turns into, I was actually the victim, her progress and therapy have gone sideways, and it'll become toxic again. You were right to point that out and ensure she knows you have your own memory of how this went down. Info. What was Jen's life like 8 to 13 years before you were aware of the family dynamic or could form memories? A lot of the behaviors you're talking about don't usually spring out of nowhere. And if there was abuse or neglect in Jen's early life, she was probably acting out. The fact that you were the invisible child suggests serious issues stemming from your parents. That's not crass at all. Let's say she had some abusive experience. Then she abuses you and your sister because of that. If she's not responsible for her actions due to abuse, then you're not responsible for your actions due to her abuse. And the person you abuse because of that isn't responsible either. Who's responsible after all? When does it stop? You cannot be the bully and the victim in the same relationship.